to the In His Voice podcast, hosted by me, Rob L. Lowe. We talk about everything that deeply impacts the lives of boys and men without ever bashing women. We talk about everything from the bedroom to the boardroom, from the playground to the stadium, and everything in between. Today's subject, really cool topic, having an outlet. Man, like, I can't tell you how many men, how many fellas I know or I have met in life that only realize later in life, like after they turn 40 or even 50, how important it is or it was to have an outlet. So I want you to think about this, like, and I'm not talking about just guys trip, like that's one outlet. I did my first guy trip at the age of 51. So before that, I had never been on a guy's trip, had never taken a vacation by myself or just with a bunch of men. So that was my first guy's trip. And so that was a cool outlet. It really was. But that only happened once in the year. But what I can tell you is a lot of the men that I know that get up every day and they do this grind called fatherhood, brotherhood, unclehood, boyfriend, husband, corporate executive, entrepreneur, whatever it is their daily grind is. Man, all of those men that I have met, I say all, but overwhelmingly the majority of them have all talked about the need to have a mental break. And we hear this term about self-care, and we often associate it with mental health. And that is a big part of it. But it's bigger than that. Like self-care is about not just rejuvenating your mind, but also rejuvenating your spirit, rejuvenating your body. And so you think about particularly Black men, we are at one of the biggest demographics to suffer from hypertension, right? Stress, diabetes. Black people, we suffer from sickle cell, so many other medical conditions that we're prone to get more so than other demographics. But that one we talk about stress and obesity and what that does to you over time can be fatal. Like I know probably anyone who's watching this video knows someone in your life who was impacted by, you know, obesity, diabetes, sickle cell, um, overweight, depression, just all those things that come with living and trying to fight this thing called the rat race in this human form. And so as I realized when I finished writing this book, I knew it before I wrote the book, but when I finished writing the book, I thought about I'm going to be very intentional to make sure that I have an outlet. So my outlets have evolved over the years. So, I did, um, I worked out all the time in my 30s and early 40s. So now I'm trying to get back there because these extra 27 pounds are not cute. Don't judge me. My other outlet was I used to love driving. Like my wife and daughters know, like it was nothing for me to get in the car and just say, "Hey, I'll meet y'all there," but I'm gonna drive to wherever we going because I love the idea of being in the car on the road with no one in the car. I'm listening to music. I'm talking to God. Sometimes I'm crying. I'm having conversations with my mother. Like you name it, I'm strategizing. I'm going through all of my emotions because that's my time. And then, um, there's a part of me that, an outlet is a cool vacation, but that's not really my major form of outlet. My other one is, and this in 2021. So if you watch any of my podcasts, then like I am a big lover of a nice cigar, not just any cigar, not just any cigar. Listen, Drew Estates. I am a fan of Fat Bottom Betty's, Leather Rose, and Crazy Owls. But Fat Bottom Betty is my go-to, and if they don't have that, I go to Leather Rose. And then I have a nice Heineken Zero or a Corona Zero, non-alcoholic beer. And if they don't have either of those, I'll try to have a cappuccino or a hot cocoa because I don't drink alcohol. But my biggest outlet today, believe it or not, and it does something for me, is having a cigar. I can be by myself. I can be around a group of people. I can be with one of my homeboys, CJ. I can be with Burrows. I can be with Martin. I can be with Sean, Chris, Jelani, Jay. I can be with so many other folks, or I can just be by myself and take in the moment. And so I made this podcast because I had a conversation with CJ last night. We were talking and we were going to do this podcast. It didn't work out. So I'll probably have him on, or I may do a part two to this and interview CJ. So just stay tuned. But as I was thinking about an outlet, how important it is. As a young man, as a young boy, I saw men that I knew who um, they worked, and some of them, they worked and then they came home and every day their outlet was a beer or a glass of wine, in some cases a joint. And I never thought about it. I'm not here to judge what was right or wrong. But as I got older, I understood that, man, when they got home, they needed something to help them unwind and take off the stress of the day. Today, there's other things that people do, like people have these massage contracts where they go get massages once a week, twice a week, once a month, whatever it is, you can do that. But the point being that in order for us as men to truly, truly be in the best mental, physical, emotional, spiritual fit that we can be, we have to learn to value our own well-being. We can't rely on the women in our life to be the sole source of peace. And what I mean by that, we always say we want peace, yes. But sometimes you have to know where to go find peace. Sometimes if you're single, it ain't a woman who's not bringing you peace. It just might be because you don't know how to turn off all those stressors in your life. And I think you have to. Hypertension is a real thing, man. People die from strokes or heart attacks, man, that start off building over time, and the signs are there, but we don't recognize them. And I'm not a medical doctor, so if I say this wrong, please don't leave crazy comments in below. You get my point. But men, it is important. It is really, really important that we find something or some things that are healthy for us. And when I say healthy, again, I'm not a medical doctor. You can argue that cigars are not healthy. That's fine. What I mean that those things that will provide us an avenue for us to unwind, decompress, be in the right mental state of mind so that we can make decisions that better our lives and the lives of those that are around us or those that depend on us. I know this is one, right? So I've been on a guy trip. I've been on two now, two or three. And I've heard all the rumors about what happens on guys' trips. Now, I'm not saying they don't happen. Don't get me wrong. I know some guys trip truly off the chain. But I've actually been fortunate enough to be on a guy trip where literally we hung out at the pool, we went to the beach, we got massages at the beach, right? But those are public massages. We went jet skiing, we rode ATVs. We literally would sit around the pool at night in the villa having cigars and talk about some of the life decisions we made. Like my cousin Jelani, you hear me talk about him a lot. If he sees this video, he can attest to it. Me, him, and Jay set up to probably 2, 3 in the morning one night, just really talking about some of the decisions we made in life, good or bad. What are the lessons learned from them? Learn from them. What are the things we could do different going in the future, and what are the things that we're glad that we did do because even those lessons taught us who we are today. um Jelani, I'll give him credit because he's one of the ones he would always push me. He like, dude, do something for yourself. You work really hard, you travel a lot. I live in Orlando. I work in LA. I fly back and home, back and forth like once a month or once every 6 weeks. When I'm not in LA, I'm not in Orlando. I'm in Indianapolis or some other city, taking care of business or a family member. And so my life at times was super, super hectic. Prior to 2020 four, I was like literally living in Indianapolis, working in Indianapolis, living in Florida, flying home every 2 weeks. When I wasn't there, I was flying around the country. The job before that, I literally was flying around the world. I was only home approximately 1 week a month for almost 10 years in a row. 10 years, always gone. My wife, my daughters can tell you, always gone, whether it's in a different city or a different country. And I would come home and I'm trying to squeeze in some decompression time when I got home. But remember, when I got home, I still got dad duties, right? I got to spend time with my daughters and my wife. I got to fix whatever didn't get fixed during the week, what's broken. I got to, if I have to do yard work, I got to figure out yard work. If there's, things that happen with the vehicles, I got to go make sure the cars are okay. So even when I got home, it was work. It was work. And finally something clicked with me and said, dude, you can't keep this up. You're going to have to find a way to decompress. You're going to have to find an outlet for you to be able to take off all the stress of today and yesterday and be able to put it down so that you can recharge. And so for me, that came in the form of cigars. It came in the form of driving and listening to music. It came in the form of um, believe it or not, this podcast is an outlet for me. So when I created this podcast because I had so much inside that I wanted to say, and so many thoughts and so many experiences, but I didn't have a platform to be able to share it. And in my corporate world, I couldn't do that because the nature of my role didn't require that, nor did it permit it in many cases. But when I wrote the book, as part of the plan, I said, I want to be able to reach as many people as possible and inspire them. I want to help people live a healthier, more productive life. I want to help people live their authentic life. I want to help people find out those things or explore those things that are hindering their ability to find true happiness, or at least find their genuine desire and what they need. And I said all along I wanted to do a podcast, but for me, I didn't want to do just any podcast. I knew I wanted to help men. I knew I wanted to give a voice to men. I knew I wanted to give a voice to young men and boys and create a platform where we could talk. But what I didn't set out to do is I didn't set out to do anything that would alienate others, including bash women. You always hear me say at the beginning of the podcast, we never bash women because I don't think you have to do that in order for a man to find peace and find tranquility and find comfort. Now, ladies, you're watching this podcast. You're like, oh, that's good. Like men need peace and they need a balance and women do too. But girls' trips are good. I'm all for it. Whatever your outlet is, as long as it's healthy and it does not affect um, your relationship with him or his outlet doesn't affect your relationship with you. You guys have to have that mutual understanding about what that is, but you have to respect each other enough to understand that's their outlet. Like my wife's outlet is in her garden. My wife she likes to cook. I don't know if that's an outlet. She just likes to do it. She might have a glass of wine when she comes home, like every blue moon. um, and she loves hanging out with her sisters, right? That's her outlet. And for a long time, I didn't understand it because I didn't have brothers, right? I had cousins and who were like my brothers, but I moved away from them. And when I moved away, we didn't talk very much. And I have two older sisters. And so for me, I never understood that closeness. But as I've been with her for so many years, I realized that's an essential part of her peace and her joy, and that gives her balance. And I respect that because she works hard. My daughters have their own outlet. And so going back to men, I'm sitting here and I wish you guys could see this view. I'm looking out and I can see palm trees and it's a serene, kind of a serene feel and a serene view looking outside. But something as simple as sitting in your backyard, cutting on some jazz. If you have a man cave, oh, by the way, ladies, if he wants a man cave, let him have a man cave. Now, you want the man cave to be at your house, so at least you know where he's at. But I built this house. I love my house, but I didn't think about. I wasn't at the time thinking that, you know what, my daughters are going to be grown. They're going to move out. And yes, I have 4 bedrooms, but I really should have built the man cave. I had a chance when we built it to add a loft on the second story, and I didn't do it. Right? I didn't want to spend the extra 30,000. Had I knew then what I know now, I absolutely would have spent it, and I'd have built a man cave up there with a projector TV with a freaking um, humidor. And I'd have created some type of ventilation system that sucked it out and closed the door so I could have a cigar up there. Or if not, at least I'd have built a man cave outside in my backyard. And then maybe I'll still do it and then have it air conditioned with the app so I can control it. It's in Florida, right? So I can turn the air on when I need to. But whenever I want to have a cigar and go out there and watch TV, have a TV in there, I lock it up. I think that I'm gonna do that, right? Because I understand the importance of having an outlet. So whatever your outlet is, whatever that thing is, find it, embrace it. Encourage your spouse or your mate or whatever that is to find their outlet. Listen, you can love each other. I get it. It's great. You want to be together. But sometimes it's okay if a person finds peace just in doing something, by themselves without you. That's okay. It doesn't take away from who you are as your relationship. But sometimes a person, man or female, just needs to find something that makes them um, decompress, recharged, um, and able to pick up the responsibilities. And then, what I'll tell you is, if you don't find an outlet, whatever that is, it will manifest in your work. It will manifest in your relationship. It will manifest in how you treat or interact with your kids and with your family members. And if you value those relationships, if you value those people, if you value those things, then it's important that you understand how important an outlet is. You know what? Thursday is when this podcast drops, right? And I always shoot it earlier in the day so that I could drop it, and I'll do the editing on it. But the moment it's done, I'm gonna treat myself to a Fat Bottom Betty cigar. Because as much as I love being in front of the camera and smiling and all these things and talking about the book, it's a lot of work. It is an outlet. It's just a different type of work. And I enjoy doing this part of it because I feel like um, even if it only blesses one person, even if one person just sees it and they are inspired to look at the world differently or think different, then I've done my job. So find your outlet, right? Some people's working out, some people's gardening, some people's actually mowing the grass. Like I literally have neighbors who say they enjoy working in the yard, cutting the grass. I'm like, yo, you crazy. It's 90 degrees outside. But that's their outlet. That's what brings them joy. That's what allows them to decompress. Um, I love to work out. I love to walk trails if they're not too hard with music in my ears. And yeah, that's kind of my thing. So, way, different type of show. Find your outlet. Outlets are important. Decompress, recharge, re-energize, so you can refocus and then come back with a new purpose, or at least a new life. Uh, Recharge, refocus, re-energize, so you can come back, refocus with a new zeal to fulfill your purpose. That's what I was trying to say. Because I need to recharge. Anyway, I'll see you next time on the next edition of the In His Voice podcast. For me, your host, Rob L. Lowe. Don't forget, you can order the book on Amazon. It comes in hardback, paperback, as well as Kindle. So see you next time. So what? Keep going. A story of resilience. Rob L. Lowe. Take care. God bless.